Hello and welcome to the East Lampeter Township Public Meeting. All participants are now informed that this meeting is being recorded. This meeting is also being offered virtually utilizing Zoom, which is a cloud-based platform for remote video and audio conferencing. The Zoom application is free to the public. The general public is therefore able to join the meeting by connection through the internet or by calling in by phone. The public is also able to observe the meeting on the Township's YouTube channel. Please continue to check the Township website calendar for any updates related to these public meetings. Agendas for these public meetings will also be available on the Township's website. Please be reminded that this meeting is being video and audio recorded and will be posted to the Township's YouTube channel for viewing. The meeting will now proceed with the chairman calling the meeting to order and identifying all other members present in the meeting room and those joining the meeting via Zoom. The chairman will then confirm those members joining by Zoom can be heard.
Okay, welcome to the May 2023 meeting of the East Lampeter Sewer and Stormwater Authorities. Present, we have Prince Salsu, Todd Stump, myself, Rick Robinson, Fred Clark, and Vinny Patel from the Township, Richardson and Charlie Thomas from HRG, Matt Seachy, our kitchen. I now welcome you to join us in the pledge of the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag, state, and to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty. We've had the minutes for about 3 weeks now. The approval is written. There's a report, sanitary sewer.
Rick, I have, at the end of, April, a checking account balance of $7,406.40. Checks that require payment of $3,239.60.
Resolution.
We have two requisitions. First is requisition number 03-617. This is payable to Herbert Owen for work related to the South Run Station upgrade. The Cable 30 bridge replacement project that's location and the Strasburg Pike sewer extension. And that totals $3,767. Next is record number 03. This is payable to both. This is for the Concord Gardens Pump Station, Stevens Avenue Pump Station, interceptor flow line, 128 or 56.
Motion to pay the bills and requisition. Second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Very good report for the stormwater.
$856,077.05. Checks that require payment of $32,000.
Pay the bills for the stormwater.
I make a motion to pay the bill. Stormwater.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye. We said one question about what do we take to lengths or something? Here.
Probably our inlet cleanings and sweepings.
Treated material and then
We do credit for that.
Like 5 or 6 there. Would
Yeah, we stockpiled out here in the yard and then to get it over the months. We try to drive possible, so we're not. More. As we get it.
just wondered. Okay, gonna move on to business. Under sanitary sewer. First, an item is Cedar Acres.
I reported last month that, pipe work has been rerouted and done. After that meeting, we stuck our flow meters in and of course, been about, they should be coming out this week. We'll get that information off the bat to analyze to see, the I&I issues. It's the big rain event too. If it rained the other weekend, so we should see significant drop. We had the meters in, let's say December a year ago. We're close to a month, and we have some readings on that. So
What is that gonna do? I mean, I know it's gonna tell whether, but, I mean, is there any repercussions?
Lower, the flow should be lower, so that's less flow that's going through your flow meters, that you would be paying.
we don't know that. Any rate discount? Because all.
What do you think the chances of that are?
Keep it on.
Three.
Yeah. So that's something.
Okay, down for run rate.
Fortunately, that the MCCs that were supposed to come this month have been delayed. Cast to come in July. So the contractor schedule is basically came to me like so. And so we can push it to months. The one thing that we'll do is, previously we had approved a change order to extend the contract based upon a May. We see that. Based upon the contract, basically taking the schedule of what they were going to do starting this month. They moved it out to July, and that pushes them beyond what we changed the contract duration to. So instead of getting paper prepared right now and say, well, we can call until see if they actually see the equipment, then we can redo it. Well, I can change the duration. So that's the update for it. The application. Doing much except updating schedules and so on.
Okay. Number 3, possible system extensions on Strasburg.
So over the past month, we went out to Stratford Pike and Illustration Road, and we did a field view with Charlie and Larry, looking at that area for possible sewer extension. As part of that, we walked along the easement, the pathway easement in the falls of the old mill development, which parallels Mill Creek, trying to see if we could see any obvious issues of failures in the rear of the properties. Given the green grass time of year, it's very difficult in one property where there's a possibility of a walk area. But a lot of those properties, as they fall off, they have a lot of flat area that is in the floodplain of the stream. So I think it's very likely that they don't have replacement systems unless they put it in the front of their properties, if there's room in the front of the houses, but given proximity to the wells and everything else, I think that's going to be a challenge. So while we were doing that, and then looking along Stratford Pike, we found that 188 Strasburg Pike, which is near the intersection of Millville, they have they're right adjacent to a small stream up there. At the back of their property, they have a little on-lot tank. The pipe coming out of that discharges right into the embankment of the stream. So in the stream, you can actually see all the black material coming out of that on-lot system. It's a direct discharge.
So do you like to tell the zoning and or sewage enforcement officer?
Yeah, we'll have to get the SEO involved to.
Yeah.
Apparently that property for sale, I guess, and it's,
That's the word I got.
Where exactly is that again?
We had that one screen.
it's, this house right here, it's right over there, like a tank, they ran out there, and come around to the tank, you know, they have like that little thing. And then coming out of that tank, right in the stream is where that direct discharge is.
Cool. Through that stream, but it's run. So if it rains, it's going. Sure.
This property here, this is the one that the gentleman came.
Correct, yes. So we took your direction once we went out. Here, if we zoom up a little, or scroll up a little bit here. Looked at the site and said, okay, what can we pick up on gravity? What we need a grinder pump to pick up? So the G's are gravity lateral, the GPs, grinder pumps. And these houses here generally sit below Strasburg Pike. The other ones to the north side of the road, they generally sit above, and then these here sit above. There's a couple of here where we have GP or gravity. We're forward the depth of the system. Can they come out the front of the house? Do they come out the back? It could go either way. For purposes of costing out, I assume they were gravity, not grinders up here. But basically looked at trying to keep the system less than 12 feet deep for a gravity line coming up Strasburg Pike, and that basically gets us to the top of the hill. So if we scroll down a little bit, it gets us up to about this area with the gravity line around station 1500. And then we have low pressure that basically starts at the intersection of Mill Stream, comes across, and we look at getting an easement. This crossing underneath the road is almost fieldstone walls with metal plate and maybe the railroad ties or something going across the top of it. But we want to stay away from that. Let PennDOT handle that, and we'll get far enough away from it so if PennDOT touches that in the future, we wouldn't have to deal with it. So we would need to get some easement to go out and around that. But basically, these homes in this area here would all be low pressure, and that would dump up and tie into the gravity sewer extension. That's the first alternative. The second alternative, we go down and we say, well, then we just do gravity, low pressure with grinder pumps in the same area. But we would then get an additional easement. This is that property, it's the holding tanks. Go across their property, across Mill Creek, and tie into the interceptor that's over in Forge Farm. So, that's that could be a standalone project where this flow basically comes together and then heads out. And then the next page is, we looked at Millstream Road. Looked at, getting behind the home. It's a very challenging aspect. There's not a lot of room back there. There's no way for the township staff to get back there and maintain a system. So the only thing that is really feasible is having the sewer mains out in, Millstream Road itself. Initially, we thought, could we get a gravity system out there with maybe a centralized pump station in this area here? The issue becomes a lot of these homes sit below the road anyways, so they're already going to have grinder pumps to lift up in. So we looked at it just making that a low pressure extension the entire way, which would then come up and tie into either alternative that was done along Strasburg Pike. And if you scroll down a little bit there, we would take that out roughly 2,600 feet or so from the intersection. Yeah, there's a lot of homes, or I should say some newer homes in this area here, which have recent on-lot systems. If you were to go further right, there are some homes that are closer to the road where if we needed to extend it up there, we could, but this was your highest density area with, I think, your oldest section of homes. We did note, Gary, scroll up just a little bit to the top. There, sorry, on Mill Street. There was either this house or this house here just put a new on-lot system in. Their entire yard was torn up and they put a brand new on-lot system. There's new sand down and everything, very visible. Those were the three options. And again, to do Millstream, you'd have to tie into either option A or option B for Strasburg Pike. And from a costing standpoint, because we're at the conceptual phase, we're now to do the entire section of Strasburg Pike with gravity and low pressure. You're looking from about 1.5 to 7 million. Just did the low pressure itself. You're in the 637,000 to 725,000 range. The average that 1.1 to $5 million range. The Strasburg Pike by itself gives you roughly 7 or 8 million.
Two different quotes again, or? Or the sum to,
It's on the second page.
there a total of how many, properties there are that we connect?
Yeah, so option, the Strasburg Pike gravity and pressure, 26. The low pressure loop is 8. And then the Millstream is 20. And those numbers there, like, vary a little bit. I would say there's a little, could be 1 or 2 because that property there that had that sewer district in the street, I believe is an apartment. So it depends if that 1 EDU, 2 EDU. So that's where.
Yeah, the gentleman that reported the problem first. That's a 3 or 4 unit apartment there. That's not just one resident.
I'm just looking at number of connections, so. Yeah.
So with the quotes, you gave us about the 1.5 million for gravity and low pressure.
Yeah.
And then 640 for low pressure. What? And to just do the low pressure, or?
You could just do Strasburg Pike low pressure sewer by itself and, not do the gravity portion. So in the first option, we would take the low pressure and dump it in the end of the new gravity line we would install, and that flow would go down straight.
Okay.
In the second option, we're not doing any gravity work. Or will allow Y, that low pressure near the intersection with Mill Stream together. It kind of follows that little tributary going out to Mill Creek. And that line would then have to go under Mill Creek, dump into the interceptor that's in the Ford Park area.
Do the whole thing, it's like 66,000. Ballpark.
Yes, I'm wondering how much resistance there's gonna be on the residents. I mean, if there's only,
Well, the low pressure would just consist of the 8 houses, 8 properties.
Yeah, it's generally like 7, 8, depends like.
And one of those 8 is the person that was in here that is running out of options, correct? As far as on site. So there's at least one would be all right with that for sure.
Right.
And
But I would say that other one with the pipe that's going to the stream, I mean, that's a confirmed malfunction as far as DEP is concerned.
and is that
With that,
That would be low pressure.
I mean,
But that's
right now,
across the street.
we know that. I mean, they can't hardly sell the property, can they, till that's straightened out?
you could?
Depends on when it's-
it's a-
Yeah, you have to.
you can sell it for cash, but you'll never finance it.
Yeah, anybody does an inspection, we will keep fine.
Yeah, it'll be dead.
There isn't many, there's not inspections like there used to be years ago with houses though. The supply and demand, they've kind of, but not, so maybe one like this, but used to be standard now.
Depends on the buyer.
Yeah.
But it still has to be fixed. I mean, according to,
Yeah, it's gonna have to be addressed one way or the other.
And out of these other, do we know, we don't know that they're having any trouble out of that 8. We know one's not said they're having a problem, but you've noticed a problem, so now we're at 6. And we're not sure if any of those 6 are having a problem. And was most of those 6, are they, I know you had the map up there.
So this, here, to scroll up just slightly. This area right here is a sand mound for this property here, so. Yeah. Don't know if they're having any issues, but we didn't see anything, observe anything there. I mean, it's obviously they got a sand mound, so it's a newer type of system. I mean, it could still be 20 years old, but, it's like it's a cesspool or something that's else, but yeah, we didn't observe anything else out there. At this point.
And where was the new sand mound that you talked about?
That's on Mill Street. That's on Mill Street.
Okay, gotcha.
So you could do something on Strasburg Pike and not even touch Mill Street. We're just giving you an idea of what the cost would be.
Just make the provisions now.
So if one with the low pressure option, then is it possible to do the gravity later and tie it into that? Does that make sense?
It's possible to do gravity later, you wouldn't tie it into it.
Okay.
I think the one thing we want to do is just maybe get some conceptual preliminary work done, just to make sure that these houses here do make sense to tie into the low pressure, and, you know, we couldn't get the gravity far enough along to get a gravity connection in the future. But I would say for certain, like these houses here are low pressure, you know, that one's maybe a question mark, if it can be gravity or not. But you could do this option here, low pressure, the one across the stream, and at some point in the future, do the gravity extension. The going across, you know, the standard specs are when you have a pressurized system and you dump that in to a manhole, you want to line that manhole to protect it from corrosion and the next two downstream. I don't know if the interceptor manholes are that way or not. So I put in $50,000 for bypass pumping, assuming we had to do that work during this project to line them. So that's in that second item for low pressure boring. Yeah. Don't think you'd have as much. Oh, this property. Right. But, this is gonna be a little bit of a challenge here. There's not much room in that area there. Be a little challenge, and then you just have to get a drill underneath. Mill Creek as well.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of that could be directional bore, right?
Correct. Yeah, so we've envisioned, doing as much bi-directional boring as we can to minimize restoration and requirements, particularly on. So.
Sure. Yeah, I guess that's the next question that runs through our mind would be, you want to talk to the property owners that are involved in all of it, or just the pressure portion, or?
To me, the low pressure starts to make a little more sense if these are, there's two that are having issues.
Then if they see that sewer going in, a lot of people say, hey, well, my system's failing too. Are you gonna bring it this way? And do you say, how many people are gonna respond to the survey, or do you invite them to a meeting?
Maybe a meeting.
We just send out a survey, see how many respond to it,
The Strasburg Pike also,
Well, if you're gonna do it, you might as well bring them all and then figure out from there whether we.
sorry, that failing lot was where again? Not the one that's discharging, but you said there was,
This,
well, that's the one.
so they actually had like 3 or 4
And
apartments,
who just put in the new sand mound?
up on Mill Street.
That's up on the string.
Yeah, so it's,
Demi.
Close to there, yeah.
it's one, I think it's this one here.
Yeah.
And the one that's discharging into the creek, that's on the lower part of the, right there. How will they be able to connect?
I think it'd be very challenging to construct a system in the back. They might have to look at changing their plumbing and coming out on the side, somewhere along those lines. And, could they come out the front? Could they come out the side of the house to even someplace? They'd in essence just need to get a grinder tank in the ground and, different, you could use a mini X to excavate for that and.
They have to go under the road then to the other side.
Yeah, so, we can look at this and, maybe this makes. We'd have to bore underneath the road or maybe use some directional boring to tie in. And, there'd be a question, this is all one property. So it's multiple, like, do they get a duplex grinder pump instead of 2 individual ones? And it's a single boring, but right now we're showing it as 2. So those are some things to finalize, but yeah, we would look at this here to try to get individual bores across. We may not necessarily need to extend it this far at this point. If we needed an extension, we could put that in the future with Mill Street and stop wherever we could and shorten up as much as possible at this time. But,
Yeah, if that's all one needed property, you wouldn't need 2 borings, you just bore once.
correct, it's just a matter of, multiple homes, do you give them each an individual grinder pump or do you just provide?
Just one. There's a failing system. It's a gift.
The question, the first question that any of these property owners is gonna ask is, what's it gonna cost me? So, that's, to be honest, it's been prior to my time here that the authority's done an extension system like this. But my recollection from hearing times past, there was a front foot assessment applied to each property. And then, of course, having a connection fee. And then, you know, they have to have their own plumbing work done. I think the authority put, you know, in a low pressure situation, the authority put in everything, including the grinder tank system. And then the property owner had to.
So, you know, if the homeowner is smart, they might put that grinder pump 5 or 10 feet from where their line comes out of their building, you know, 10 feet away, have a very short section of pipe that they have to plumb in. But then they have to run electric, you know, part of mounting the grinder pump, they probably put the panel on the house. Then they have to get the electric to it. And some of these homes are older, so does their electric system need upgraded in order to power them? And that might be an additional cost. I mean, we've encountered in other communities where they have 100 amp service, some of these homes only have 60. And they had to put in a 200 amp tank. So we don't know that. And it's not happening south.
Homes in the city, 60s, but there ain't nothing out here that's less than 100, and they're mostly 200 amp.
Yeah.
So it could be a couple hundreds.
Yeah. I'm not saying all of it.
It's just something we don't know.
But then if you have another house.
This is in writing about the front foot assessment. And what the requirements are. This is in our, I want to say bylaws, but isn't it written somewhere?
Well, I mean, the amount of the assessment has always been a project by project thing, so there's no set amount that the authority has to abide by. You can make it $10 a foot, you can make it $1,000 a foot, you know. whatever.
But you have to justify that cost. You have to take cost of the project and you justify that cost into the front foot assessment.
Right, you can't make the assessments more than what the project costs, so. Typically, I think it's been significantly less than, you know, the additional cost has been.
Yeah, it's been significantly less system.
Yeah, it's probably something. The state has like updated tapping laws that came out maybe 10 years ago about other options and stuff, so.
Also,
Yeah.
yeah, because the problem, I mean, our monthly bills are so darn cheap that you can't look at this as from a monetary standpoint. So how much is it going to cost you? Because you're never going to pay it back. So, because our monthly is too cheap.
Well, yeah. The monthly is planning to cover, you know, the cost of operating the system and the debt service, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know, you just borrow $5 million and you know what it costs to borrow.
the cost of the core system, not just this extension, unless, do they still allow sewer districts? Do they?
You can do sewer districts, yes.
But that's like an accounting nightmare.
Yeah. You know, then you potentially have 8 properties paying $200 a quarter and everybody else paying $95 a quarter. Maybe, okay, but that's where you get questions.
What I get out of it is, hey, there's a stream discharge going on. there's another one failing there. At least look at Strasburg Pike, maybe look at Millstream as like a phase 2 or something, and that way you're not backed into doing the whole thing. But just do Strasburg Pike.
Just the low pressure or low pressure and gravity?
Low pressure and gravity.
What are we looking at cost wise for a homeowner, just an approximate? I know HUD said about the front foot assessment and connection, right? Connection fee, so.
I mean, I think. Yeah, tapping fees, 2450 or 2650. 2650. So, I mean, that's per EDU. You know, it could be to get a plumber, electrician out there. You know, if you don't have to run very far, don't have a lot of work, maybe it's just free. Yeah.
Minimum 25.
Yeah. But if somebody's got a, you know, real house that's 150 feet away and you've got a gravity connection, you got a plumber that's got to dig 8 feet in the ground or something like that. I mean, that could be $10,000, $12,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They see it just charged like that and say, you must.
Yeah, if they go out and there's no option for replacement systems, which they're. Yeah. Or initially he said it was really challenging. So then, yeah, then they turn to the township and say, what's the solution?
Yeah, so I thought there was a way they, like, thank you.
Yeah.
So we're up to about maybe, say 3,000, so we're about maybe 650, and then there's, front foot assessment. 2650 was tap in, 3,000 plumbing, and then front foot assessment maybe.
I mean, it could be, if you're on a gravity system, like I said, it could be, you know, 3,000 for short, but if you had to run 150 feet, I mean, you could be talking 12,000 plus if the air deep with rock. I mean, right. So.
And it'll be a quarterly billing. So we've not sent anything out to the 26 people on Strasburg Pike. Makes sense to considering sewage extension and check to see if there's any current problems, something worded with your system, something worded maybe a little better than that, but send out to those 26 folks.
And can there be a? Who's yes, the first question, what's it gonna cost? You say this is what the front foot assessment is gonna be, this is what the tapping fee is gonna be, plus your plumber, electrician bills could be a range of 3 to 10.
The people that have a lot of hill in their backyard say my system's fine.
Well, they always say that, but if it goes along the front of the earth, I get the front foot assessment.
How many linear feet are we talking about?
2,600 feet, I heard earlier.
Yeah, if you look at their estimate, 2,600 feet.
Yeah, gravity is about 1250, and low pressure was. You know, another, 2250. We'll start with like 2,200.
2,300, so. I don't know what you want to do, but you know, do $100 a foot. They're looking at $230,000 from property owners towards the project. Do $10 a foot, $3,000. Yeah, which.
If I look at it as it's not, there's no way you can justify financially how to do this. The problem is there failing systems? Is there going to be more failing systems? And do they got to be taken care of what's the cheapest way we can take care of it?
We can look at like a 537 plan study in that area. Some of the things that we look at for determining suitability of all lots are slope of the ground. Because if your slopes get too high, DEP said we can't put a sort of all lot system there. And you're also in floodplains, how much of those properties are taken up by slopes and floodplains, and you eliminate that portion of the property and say, okay, well, what's left? Do you have space there for new all lots, like a replacement all lot system in the future should you need it? And that's not even looking to see if folks have issues, just saying, hey, what's the likelihood? You're looking at areas that you could possibly put a replacement system. Good portion of some of these properties. Floodplain.
In that survey, would you say something like, the authorities were looking to do a sewer project and we're looking for your input as residents, that do you have a problem with your system or not?
Yeah, I think that's what was being suggested, just to try to get that much feedback to get a response to say, yeah, I've got a problem now, or I don't have. Lots of phone calls, from a mailing like that, and it's going to be all the questions. What do you mean? Why? Who said? How much is this going to cost me? What's the? Just so you're aware, and we can certainly send a mailing out and see what we get back, and then make decisions after that. It's fine. The alternative is to invite them to a meeting. They all hear the same thing at the same time. And
Best case scenario is you get 30 to 40%, or actually 40, you get 30% that are neutral, and you get 30% that are just going to fight you tooth and nail. That's the way it's going to be. But it still goes back to, you got failing systems in that area. I'm sorry, you got this stuff going in the ground, going into the creek. I mean, come on. You got to do something about that.
I think if ever it comes to a frontage assessment, it kind of needs to be reasonable to the homeowners, because as Fred says, it's not going to be anything that the sewer authority is going to make money on, but I think.
I mean, and it also, the thing back to the homeowner is look how much more valuable your property's got because of it. That's what they get out of it, is their property's worth a lot more.
yeah, and if they've got the resources to add that equity into their property, they'll probably be fine. If they don't have resources.
Well, then you usually have like a 3-year period, that
Yeah, somewhere says, got to look at the township ordinance, I'm not to break that.
says that.
Generally, it says may it be like 60-day notice or something. I've seen some of those.
Yeah, but it's,
But yeah, see what the order, here's generally that says.
Available to you, you have
X amount.
CAs to
I think what you're saying is that you'd like to have the residents come to a meeting. Is that what you're thinking? That way they all hear the same thing? And Matt, would you feel comfortable to have enough information to talk to them about?
We can talk about the extensions. We know that there's, 2 properties that definitely need addressed. Can't necessarily speak to the others other than, given the area, the topography, the area there, it's likely that there's not a lot of space available for replacement systems.
Get the DEP and let them be the heavy.
I don't represent from DEP do it.
No. Saying.
be concerned about DEP's schedule and demands for this project compared to what we might go about it.
Yeah,
So
I'm just
I mean,
saying, you have a.
yeah, failing systems, if you're gonna address those failing systems, then might as well say that we're gonna do a project. Here's the
I heard pipe running into the stream bank and black stuff in the stream. That's,
Yeah, maybe we don't certainly want to point finger at the property owners that are the motivation.
No.
But
I don't mean it that. I mean it that, I'm just saying that's just going into the ground, to the creeks and into the, look at all the. We're supposed to be doing our part.
yeah.
So,
The people
it's not a good situation, but you gotta do it.
And, you know, this area, Strasburg, was an area for the sewer extension to 537 planned, but that was a few years ago. 20 years ago.
just be prepared that the Strasburg Pike property will be this problem. Maybe saying, well, just, there's problems still there, just fix it.
Say if nobody's having problems and all the 2 out of 8 are having problems and these low pressures, maybe that's the answer then, but maybe to hear what, you know, what the, on a survey, what.
You serve. Yeah. Well, I had experience. The planning, and there's a third of those people just hated you. And there's a third of those people that loved you. And then there's a third that went either way. Just get over it. They're going to hate you.
Yeah.
I'm not hating it, though.
One thing, if you're looking at, you know, how's it, equity of your customers for gravity and low pressure, because generally when you have that gravity line you're running up, you drop a ladder and let the room be lying there for the road. The homeowner's got to take it from that point back to their house. And depending on what the house says, it could be 20 feet, it could be 150 feet. Generally, with that grinding fault, with that grinding fault near that house and it's out to the road. So those folks there are generally have to run a much shorter distance, but they do have the electric costs. They have the cost of electrician. You may have some folks saying, hey, my neighbor's only got to move 10 feet because they got a grinder. They got to move 50 because I got a ladder. And there is that cost difference, that out of pocket money that they have, the ones operating the grinders. They've got like a monthly electricity bill and stuff like that. So
Can't let them decide where they put these tanks up, because we're going to access to them before we.
sure.
Yeah,
You want to put them in the back, you got
exactly. You put them.
There's one thing most or all townships don't do though, you know, East Lampeter, I'm right, one of the few that services a residential
Yeah.
grinder pump for a homeowner.
I never understood that. Why East Lampeter does that, other than that's the way we've always done it. There's a lot of municipalities don't do it that way.
Yeah, well, when I first got here, we didn't, and there was a particular problem. The decision was made to go ahead and start taking care of it.
Is there any study that shows how much a property increases in value with?
Well, it's like this guy on the corner right now. That property's worth a fraction of what they might think it is. Doesn't matter. Whoever's gonna buy it, it's gonna be cash, because you're never gonna finance it. So just take that one property there. Is worth a fraction of what.
I'm
it
thinking
could be.
we're selling the other people that don't think that they need it. Or
I
should
assume this is all residential zoning.
Yes.
Well, there's that one body shop down there,
There is a body shop.
I don't know, there's another thing or so, I think, and
Regular mechanic.
Looks like R2 medium density. Where's Strasburg? right there, yellow. Low density residential and agriculture. Looks like it's agriculture on this east side of Stroudsburg Pike. Right?
It's past Mill Stream.
That's
There's
ag,
farms in here. There's a farm here.
but that's Stroudsburg Pike right there, your finger, right?
Right here. Yeah, here's where
Yeah.
Windy Hill comes across. Here's.
Oh, that's Windy Hill there.
Here's where the problem.
That's Millstream, that's not.
Okay, so that's all yellow. That's low density residential. And then there's some olive, what's that? Medium density residential.
You're looking at that sort of olive green.
Yeah,
That's on the other side of the creek. So.
yes,
Basically, That's
yeah.
basically Flory Park.
Okay.
Yeah, the yellows.
So it's mostly all low density residential. Residential means.
Yeah, square foot lots.
Make the job easy. For you guys. As easy for you guys as possible. At least that's my thing. You know, send out a letter and plan a meeting and at least
I agree. I mean, I think something has to be done. Look, it's not gonna be fun. There's gonna be people that are gonna be pissed off, but it's like,
Probably be maybe easiest for the township staff to, correct me if I'm wrong, but just plan the meeting and have them here. That way it's not continual calls to Charlie, whoever, maybe, you know.
anyone that doesn't come to the meeting is gonna start calling.
True.
You know, so
So you think survey first or?
I think you send out the survey, but also say that there's gonna be a scheduled meeting, you know, and we'd like to have we'd like to have, you know, your input back before the meeting on
yeah.
June 15th or, you know, July or whatever.
Back within 15 days, the meeting's gonna be in 45 days. Set the meeting date.
You know, they're because they're gonna ask, you know, when's this gonna take place? Well, it's engineering and approvals and everything else. I mean,
You're generally looking at,
a year and a half from now, probably.
probably 12 to 18 months. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, so that gets us to, you know, not that it makes a difference, but we're 2025.
Yeah. The biggest person I think it's gonna impact is the one that has a holding tank. That's gonna be a lot of pumping for them.
Sorry about.
Oh, that property was.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna have just a lot of continued pumping, but that is what it is.
Do you think it's best to have a meeting and educate the individuals about what's being considered and then get their feedback through a survey? Because not everyone's open in a meeting.
Not everyone's open.
I didn't say anything. But they have their opinions.
And they may not come forth with, I have black sludge going in the
Yeah.
creek at a public meeting, but afterwards they may be like, yeah, this isn't a bad
Well,
idea.
if they need to fill out a survey and send it in. Yeah. Do you have any?
I see her point too. I mean, survey after the meeting versus a survey.
The sell to this is you sell, look, either. You know, there's some failing systems in the area. And either DEP is going to come in and tell us how they want it done, or we're going to take it and do it the way it should be done and get ahead of it. We need to get ahead of this because the alternative might even be more expensive to them. And you try and sell it that way. You tell them that the alternative is not good.
Agree.
Yeah, I'll craft a letter and just get a look at it.
We good moving on?
Just, we're talking about Old Strasburg Pike getting this letter.
Yeah, all of Strasburg Pike to the,
All Strasburg Pike gets a letter, but obviously we can still go to the option and just go with the low pressure as one of the options. I think it'd be good to hear.
Yep. Treehouse update. Contacted Treehouse solicitor.
They've been back and forth. Just received an email on Monday that they would like to hold open because they're real close to having their system up at full capacity. But we don't know when that is. We're trying to get an answer. They're trying to do the cleaning and help. Let's get it televised because we have an issue. DEP's going down. So he's reaching back out to them. If they haven't dropped it.
The perfect concern, I guess, is that they're training their employees to have great pre-treatments. I thought that was already done. I thought this was December of last year that, you know, the system is up and running, and everybody's trained and it's working. And we should be, in my opinion, we should be beyond training employees how to operate this pre-treatment system. But we have this agreement that, you know, set forth what they were required to accomplish, and they haven't accomplished it. So
what's the penalty if they don't? Voided the agreement. So,
no, I don't think we're going to go into new form. I think it was that, you know, we could begin enforcement of the ordinance, which would be fines and costs.
so write him a nasty letter.
I've met. Right.
So, yeah, you have your lawyer write a lawyer letter. Say, you know, this is what could be done. This is what is being talked about. You might want to consider moving ahead a little quicker.
Yeah, their attorney made mention that they got the quote from the camera company, let out a big gasp as much as it was going to cost them. The video, they come back in and clean up the video again. But, yeah, not our problem. Right.
That's why you need a nasty letter to, so they realize the alternative is going to cost them even more.
Yeah.
Any other old business under sanitary sewer? Old business under stormwater.
I have none.
New business. City's flow monitoring project.
I spoke with Larry and, he reached out to the meter guys and proceeded with that new sensor, installed. We're going to coordinate installation of that, purpose, and then proceed with that. We indicated that the city had not yet moved their one meter and effective at the airport meter location, so we'll reach out to CDS.
And We just did the escrow agreement for the overall. That would be proceeding.
Capital projects.
No update yet on, funding received. Generally that committee meets on, odd months for the state. So we're hearing it's July at the earliest for those funding applications that were submitted.
Okay. PennDOT Western Gateway Project.
In the engineer's report, there was a letter, which is full approval, and that's doing the 462 improvements. They've released a request between engineering, so they're basically asking get a consultant involved. And PennDOT consultants require information on items that they require, design efforts for modifications. They just this is a letter that goes to PennDOT.
Project that they're talking about is what we have displayed on the back wall here. Basically runs 462 from Strasburg Pike essentially out to Harvest Mennonite School. So, any impact that this project would have on the existing system, or the issues that
Adding lanes or something? What is, they widening it?
do you read any of our newsletters when they come to you?
No. So I'll look at this.
A narrow road, especially from Oakview East, adding sidewalks on both sides from essentially Walmart going east. If you can picture, if you're on 462 right now, you have the option of continuing and going straight up to Oakview Road, then going straight to continue on 30. That option is going to go away. So all the traffic is going to turn down that little spur, and there'll be a traffic signal at that intersection with the
Really?
bypass. And you'll have to, if you want to go to Oakview Road, you'll have to turn left, and then you could go up the intersection and turn left on Oakview if you want. You still have the same ability to make all the same movements, but you won't. It'll be different than you do it right now. And then
What are you gaining out of that?
It's dangerous there, trying to cut.
Keenan, I
Is
mean,
it safety reasons?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
primarily safety reasons and pedestrian movements, because there was no other decent way to get pedestrians along 462 to tie into the pedestrian system on 30. And from Oakview going east, the pedestrian system, it's going to be a bike ped, 12-foot wide bike ped facility, rather than just a 6-foot wide sidewalk, which is what you'll have on the side. So that's in a nutshell. There's a lot to that project, but that's
It's all funded by the state.
yes. It came out of our streetscape plan.
Yeah.
But this particular project is all state money through. The other thing that this raises in my mind, and we've sort of touched on in the past, but that's the same area where if we're eliminating the Oaks pumping
That's right,
stations,
so that cut through there.
that's yet to be determined.
Well, coming in today, I saw eyes for a lot lease. That, like, there was pad site lease in here with drive-through. I'm not sure where that is on the site.
That's that bank.
The old bank, yeah, I think it's
Lobster.
Because what we were, this is the Oak Station. I think what we're doing is bringing that sewer down, coming in front here, and then looking at it, we come over here because of the storm line that, or the stream line that cuts through here. So I wasn't sure if they were looking at bringing something in between them, but that's good to hear that it's, so. But conceptually, that's what we're thinking, somewhere in here, being able to 30. We have to do.
And then where would you go with it from there?
There, all the way here, that sewer, existing sewer line runs.
Like in front of,
Sewer that's in front of here that comes down, that runs this way through here and comes down. So we'd have to replace and deepen this line that's in here already from this portion here, all the way.
yeah,
So the question that that raises is, made application for funding to do that pumping station, but if Matt engineers that, then there's an issue with whether that cost is covered by grant funding. Probably wouldn't be if we've already engineered it.
yeah.
So if you want potentially for some of this work to be included in highway project, we have to design it.
And if we design it, then we can't get the grant money.
Can't get the grant money for that portion of the cost.
Yeah, it depends upon when the grant funds are released. You know, if you don't start engineering work until after you hear about the grant funding, then it's eligible. If you start it before that time period, it's not.
And do I recollect that even that grant funding could be 2 to 3 years out?
Generally, they're pretty good. I mean, they're saying the issue with this grant funding is there is a deadline by the feds of when all the money needs to be spent by. So I don't think, if I were, they can't sit on it. They can't sit on it too long because that end deadline isn't changing. So they want to have things that are funded and are going to get constructed.
This highway project is going to be bid, at this point, the schedule is December of 24. So,
December 24.
yeah,
Okay.
so that typically means, you know, the final design has to be completed several months.
And how would this affect that design then?
I would say PennDOT's gonna change the elevation of the roadways, or if they're gonna do any sort of drainage improvements. Those are the two things we would wanna know.
Which wasn't the area where the car went into like a sinkhole or something?
Yes.
We had that real extreme heavy rain flood or whatever.
Yes.
I thought that
PennDOT
was,
did some kind of repair there.
I thought that was down in,
No, it's right there.
It was, I called it the Red Lobster ramp.
yeah, east, the Red Lobster land.
Yeah, to do the Oaks project, you're looking at easements from the state, on the state police side, and also through that shopping complex there.
So what are you suggesting, that we pay for the engineering now to get it designed so that it can be gotten into the road project? And then we'll end up paying for the engineering and the cost of it?
But the one thing I'm just advise is if it gets incorporated into the road project. Again, PennDOT, this is a betterment. They're not going to fund any portion of it because their system isn't impacting it. But a lot of times it's incorporated, you went into an agreement with PennDOT where you won't receive a bill until everything is complete.
Yeah.
So it could be a number of years down the road that you get a bill. And if you're looking at grant funding, that time period may terminate sooner than when PennDOT issues a bill.
The thing is, there's savings to do this. Look at your annual maintenance that you do from doing it, so you don't want to miss that window, and if it has to be done before,
It doesn't have to be. I mean, PennDOT could, go do this project and come back in later on and do your project.
Matt, any benefit from that pump station being disassembled? Could we use the pumps anywhere else, the generator or anything like that? Charlie can use it, throw it in the back of his pickup truck and take it somewhere?
Little traffic signals out there.
I'm not sure. I mean, possibly the generators. I mean, you can look at, can you use that elsewhere at another station? Look at the age of them. Those pumps, if I remember, I don't know how similar they are to other pumps in the system. We have to see if there's any, they match others. If they do, then you can look at the market. If you can't use the generator, I've had other clients that put that stuff out for bid and
that generator.
they've got line companies that push stuff like that.
It would move. I'm just talking about the yearly expense and like.
Plus staff.
What was the budget on that project? Point.
Yeah, this is a minor thing, but, whenever, we go do something and then somebody comes through and tears it up shortly thereafter, there's always that general outrage of, don't you people talk to each other?
Yeah. So,
So,
I think, if you were to proceed separate from PennDOT, we would reach out to PennDOT's engineer and ask for their plans and
because there's a payback to this, is why it would make sense to move ahead, engineer it, and get it done. Regardless of the grant money, because there's a payback to this. The other way is you don't do anything. You wait for the grant, you wait for this, you wait till, then this project's going on, they don't want you to touch it while that's going on, then it's another 3, 4, 5 years down the road before you're even allowed to do that. Instead of just pay the engineering, do the thing, get it done within the street project, and start receiving your payback as soon as possible.
we think CFA's meeting later this month.
I thought it was July.
So, I mean, if you want to wait till their July meeting and see if they.
You can't wait till July meeting, then I don't think you should wait. I think if that's going to be put out the bid in December of 24, 18 months, you want it in that project, regardless whether it's funded or not.
Oh, looks like there is a CFA board meeting on the 16th of this month. Whether they're taking up this particular grant program or not.
Does that require a politician to move?
Yes,
Okay.
they're all asked there. If it's in their area, they're all asked about.
And who would be the one we tap for that?
Steve Menser and Scott Moore. Minimally, Matt's asking you to, sign this letter so that he can at least do the coordination for the existing system.
Looking for a motion to. You need clergy to go ahead to.
I'll make. We give HRG to go ahead to sign the letter.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any other new business under sanitary sewer? Stormwater new business update on MS4.
So we have reached out to Greenleaf twice with proposals to retrofit their large basins along Old Philadelphia Pike and Mount Covina Road. We've gotten no response in return, so we've asked them to come back with a proposal to us as a potential pollution reduction. We have received a plethora of information from I2 Capital utilize in the amended PRP, which we look to submit in the near future here to DEP for. We don't need to do a public meeting or anything of that nature. This is just a follow-up of our prior submission. Oscar's Pet Resort owners are looking at the design and plantings that we've proposed along the, I'm going to say, northeast side of the property. They have a very small culvert center to the stream on the property, and so it would be on the northeast side of that. That would result in about 110,000 pounds of sediment reduction if that project moves forward the way it's designed currently. And then, are you okay if I move into the next item?
Yes.
Okay. We did put the hack project out on pen bid. We were very excited. With the 3 responses, with the lowest bid coming in at $377,858 even. And that is with a company that has worked in Lancaster County on a few stream bank restoration projects and has thus far done exactly what their contracts have indicated. So, EMA, as the designer of the project, was comfortable recommending that the project move forward with Green Team Industries, who was the lowest bidder. This will result in 284,000 plus pounds of sediment reduction towards our MS4 requirements. Now, we do have 2 agreements with HAC. The first agreement is a straightforward easement agreement that has a construction aspect to it and then a permanent agreement aspect to it. We're still working through with the 2 solicitors, the HAC solicitor and your solicitor, on a final draft of that. So we would ask that you approve that, subject to your solicitor's final review and approval. The second agreement is the MS4 Stream Bank Restoration Agreement. That agreement is a 3-party agreement between the township, the authority, and HAC. And that's because you're doing the project, HAC's the property owner, and the township holds the actual MS4 permit. So the Board of Supervisors approved that agreement, subject to the township solicitor's approval and review and approval, excuse me. And so I would ask that you do the same. Subject to your solicitor's review.
So we're looking for a motion to approve. Yeah.
There's multiple, so award the bid.
Award the bid.
Approve the easement agreement, subject to your solicitor's review and approval. And approve the MS4 Stream Bank Restoration Agreement, subject to your solicitor's review and approval.
And you want separate.
Yes, please.
Got that, Vinny?
Me too.
No, you don't.
I talk loud. It should catch it for you when you listen.
Drafts of any of these? I mean, we have the big here, but do we have like the easement agreement copy or anything like that, or?
We do have a copy of it. It is redlined with everyone's comments because we were keeping track of everyone's comments. So I'm happy to share that with you.
So you want a motion to approve the Green Team Industries as the low bid on this project?
That's correct.
Make that.
All in favor of team bid? Say aye. Aye. Opposed?
And you want a motion for us to agree to these easement agreements that have not been written yet?
They are written, they're with all of the solicitors.
With our solicitors approval.
So I'll make a, motion. We agree to the easement agreement as long as our solicitor.
Pending our.
That also.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
About the MS4,
There's an MS4 stream bank restoration agreement. That's a three-party agreement between the township, the authority, and HAC. That is to allow the credits to the township under the MS4 permit. That is for the authority to do the project and for HAC to then receive a reduction in their stormwater.
so we're agreeing to enter into party into this agreement as long as our solicitor says okay.
That's
I'll make a motion that we enter into this agreement as long as our solicitor says okay.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
This will be a really good project. Based upon that bid, it's gonna be like $1.33 a pound. For pollution reduction, which is really cheap.
That's a good
Cheap credits.
Yeah.
Any other new business under stormwater? Any other business?
Just, when I constructed the Greenville sewer extension, that for that land development project, they tied into your existing manholes near Strasburg pump station. And I'm sorry, Southwood. They tied into existing manholes there. It was noted that there's a lot of groundwater infiltration coming into that manhole, so I know that problems there and things like that we have. Just thinking, is that for your project? Is
Sounds like repair.
I don't know if it's capital, you're rebuilding it, or
They're just gonna line that fiberglass line. We've done it before.
right. Projects where you've done like 25 manholes.
Yeah.
I
But
didn't know on
let's do one, why wouldn't that be just?
just a question.
Yeah, there's liability.
That's those. Here, it's like. You did a job. Did. And you quit too.
All we're gonna do is line them.
Yeah, it's one man line, you're probably talking. That's also today, they're like, oh, come out for one, because they have to do all the same equipment, they're probably like 55.
Yeah, that's it.
Motion to adjourn?
Yep.
Second.
All in favor?